Hello there.
This is where the fun begins.
What's up, guys? Unofficial Star Wars here. Hope you're all doing well, and welcome to my The Bad Batch series finale review/breakdown video. We are going to be discussing a number of different references, Easter eggs, things that you might have missed throughout this episode, and my overall thoughts and opinions. I can't believe that this just isn't just a season finale, season 3's finale. This is it. This is the show's finale. They are now officially done with The Bad Batch, and it was really quite a journey. I'll get into all of that other soppy stuff, I guess, maybe later on in this video. But really, seriously, what an incredible adventure. This is it. We're here, the finale episode of Star Wars The Bad Batch, with almost an hour-long runtime. There's a lot to get. Let's recap just about everything that you might have missed in this episode titled The Cavalry Has Arrived. Before we do, though, however, grab the subscribe button if you haven't already, as we're discussing and covering all types of Star Wars-related news, leaks, rumors, theories, and breakdowns here on the channel. So if you guys are into any of that, go ahead and grab that subscribe button today. We open on an absolute gorgeous music from the legendary Kevin, Sean, and Deanna Kiner, the Kiner brothers, scoring the normal title sequences with far more dire of a track. The episode opens with the Batch making their way to Mount Tantus on foot in the jungle of where we had left them off in the previous episode. Wrecker's still hurt from fighting off a humongous, vicious creature that's like a tiger in that previous episode. Dr. Royce Hemlock goes to speak with the now captured ex-Vice Admiral Rampart, who is in a cell. The two have a snooty villain contest, it seems. Hemlock waxes about his great works and how it's beyond the understanding of normal people, something that even Rampart wouldn't be able to grasp of. Rampart is flat out telling him that the Emperor will not like that he is super secret and having his base been found. The conversation ends with Hemlock calling Rampart dispensable. Across the hall, he sees Nala Se in her cell. Jumping to Emery and Echo, still disguised as a stormtrooper, she's getting nervous about him being discovered here at the base. Ever the cool-headed one, Echo, continues his work, looking for records at the vault that Omega and the other children are being held in. When Echo questions why she's helping him to begin with, Emery admits that she was wrong about her work for Tantus and for the Empire. She's going to help get Echo into the vault, as if that wasn't already kind of established in that previous episode. They really are solidifying that. Omega is with the Force-sensitive kids in the vault, ready to enact her own plan. They're nervous about it, but what other choice do they have at this point? While the two of the kids are distracting the medical droid, Omega takes out its power with a tool that she had swiped and hid in the previous episodes. They pull the droid into one of their rooms, but Dr. Scalger, who has become increasingly suspicious about Emery, Omega, and the kids in the previous episodes, notice that the children aren't in the main area, and that they're all in their different rooms at this point. She arrives looking for the children in the actual vault. Thankfully, Omega is a fast worker, thanks to her training from Tech and Echo. She's reprogrammed the droid, which sticks Scalger with a knockout medicine of some type, and it just knocks her out instantly. Setting the droid to guard the door, Omega pries the panels off of the wall in her own room. They begin their climbing to the elevator shafts and the pipes of the base, making their way all out. Things are getting worrisome back with the rest of the batch, though, as Wrecker is really struggling with his own injury. Inside the base, Emery leads Echo into the vault, giving her all of the intel about how the Empire has taken these kids in the first place. Too bad that they just missed the kids in the snap of a finger, though Omega is putting her plan into action. She's led them all to where the Zillo Beast is being held, in another room. As the other kids wait in the vents, she sneaks towards the holding cell of the Beast. However, Baron, the one baby among the Force-sensitive kids, begins to cry. Stormtroopers head to check it out. Just as the kids are found, Omega drains the Zillo Beast's watery cells, and the creature wakes up as its kind of sensors are downed, and this creature is able to actually escape. And the Zillo Beast appears, causing its absolute rampage, something that a lot of fans out there that I know have been really hoping for and anticipating, especially for this episode. Emery and Echo arrive at the vault, as I had mentioned, just short of that, finding it's full of clone commandos and Dr. Royce Hemlock. They discover that Omega and the kids are now gone. The room shakes. The clone commander Scorch tells the group about the escaped Zillo Beast. Hemlock tells Emery to find Omega, adding, "Consider your fate now tied to hers." Alone, Echo is very proud of Omega because she's releasing the Zillo Beast is exactly what he probably would have done at the same time as well. Emery and Echo go to find Omega and the kids, now running. I would also say it's at this point, as of to this overall episode, this is where the action really begins to take off. The Zillo Beast begins to climb inside its high cell, looking for a way out, causing all the rampage on the way out. Outside, though, with the rest of the batch, Crosshair's tremors are acting up the closer that he gets to Tantus. The more pressing concern is Wrecker, who is not doing so good as well. Crosshair takes charge, giving Hunter and Wrecker the order to find a communication array to contact Rex and some of those other clones that were working with Rex. Crosshair will infiltrate the base himself. When Hunter and Wrecker try to talk Crosshair out of this idea of a plan, he snaps back that Clone Force 99 had died with Tech, and it's such a true thing it feels like. He knows what's in this mountain, and he knows that he needs to kind of be the one that would be in that position to sacrifice himself if for anything. Also stating that Omega needs you both, so he's doing this alone. It's what he deserves, he says. Hunter essentially tells him that Crosshair can't go dying on them because Omega needs all of her family. They know the risks, and so that they're doing this together. Just then, they hear a distant banging from the mountain as a Zillo Beast bursts out of the side of the base and flees into the jungle. Thanks to Omega's handiwork, they now have a way into the mountain as they ask one another, was this Echo or was this Omega? They all agree, it was definitely Omega. Hemlock wants to set up a trap for Clone Force 99, now not worried about the Zillo Beast. He wants to send shuttles after the Zillo Beast, purposely weakening the base's defenses though, however, something that Scorch is not a fan of. This way, when the batch tries to use that entry, they'll be where Hemlock wants them, trapping them. He goes and activates 4 new CX clones, all of by which sort of in a way resemble the Bad Batch, who are more droids than men at this point as well. All also having specialty weapons like shields, swords, etc., making them extra lethal and trained. And so, as the batch finally makes it into the base, slipping into the side of the mountain where the Zillo Beast had escaped, they're met by the CX clones and a squad of other stormtroopers. Crosshair creates a distraction quickly, shooting a thermal detonator and taking out an above bridge to crash on half of that squad. An Imperial shuttle swoops in, firing on the batch. Hunter gets blown back and pinned under some wreckage. Wrecker hauls him out, and the CX clones are immediately on them. The batch feels just about defeated instantly in this case, as one pins down Crosshair, the CX clone cuts off Crosshair's shooting hand. With Echo and Emery roaming the halls of the base, they see the unconscious members of the batch getting rolled past on carts, now captured. Echo decides to prioritize finding the kids first before saving the others, who they find right away in the science hangar, taking out a few guards in the process. It's from here that they get Emery and the other kids onto the shuttle. Echo gives Emery coordinates, but he and Omega have to go save the rest of their brothers, including all of the other clones as well, trapped in this base. Emery gives Omega her datapad to access all of the facilities. Echo and Omega head off to find the rest of the batch as Emery flies the kids to safety, as we later would learn, Pabu. Hemlock has taken the rest of the batch to his private cell, where the CX clones were made. He's torturing Hunter in the process. Hemlock brings up that he's put Crosshair through this before, and that they'll make fine operatives and wanting to recruit them for his projects. Hemlock is interrupted by a transmission from Governor Tarkin, forcing the Doctor to leave his work. Omega and Echo are not idle, getting into this prison area. They free the clone prisoners as well as Nalase and Rampart. They armed all of the clones with the blasters that they've picked up and could carry along the way. They don't see the batch among the prisoners, so they must be in Hemlock's conditioning room, or his other private room, as I had mentioned. Rampart wants to leave them behind. Echo says that the clones don't leave their brothers behind, giving a rousing speech to the rest of the clones. It's from here that just about all of these clones volunteer to help him and Omega save the rest of the batch, saying that they all have one more fight within. They split their new squad between getting out the injured and going after the team for one more fight. Not before Nalase pulls Omega to the side, the Kaminoan cannot let what she knows about the cloning facilities and all of that technology fall into the Emperor's hands once again. The only way that Omega can be truly free and not wanted by the Empire and not on the run is if Hemlock is gone and the science databanks are wiped, destroyed. Nalase says her goodbyes to Omega, as this is the scientist's own personal mission to do as well. Omega gives Nalase the datapad from Emery. However, Rampart is clearly not on board with any of this saving the clones stuff, so he chooses to go on his own way. As he goes on to follow Nalase, taking a blaster of his own from a fallen trooper. Bit unfortunate of the way that Rampart kind of plays out here at the end of the things here, but you know, once you're bad, I guess you're a bad guy, and that feels like it's kind of it for Rampart in this scenario. I had my fair share of theories throughout different videos here on the channel discussing and talking about how, oh, Rampart is definitely going to be that good guy, especially if somebody's going to sacrifice themselves, it's going to be Rampart, and that just isn't the case. Meanwhile, Tarkin has heard all about the Zillo Beast getting out of Tantus and everything that's been going on there. Emperor Palpatine is not happy with Hemlock. Tarkin is now on his way to Mount Tantus to see the operation for himself. Back with Omega and Echo, she splits into the vents again to get the elevator shafts that run all through the mountain. Her goal is to get to where the rest of the batch is being held so that she can relay what's happening to Echo, kind of spying essentially. That way they won't just walk into a trap. Nalase gets into the science lab, having picked up a detonator along the way. She finds Omega's file. Just as she prepares to delete it, Rampart appears with a blaster. Just as she prepares to simply delete it, Rampart appears with a blaster. However, he wants to know what the Emperor is up to in Mount Tantus. As he's looking, Nalase secretly starts the thermal detonator behind her back. This is a tricky one. I don't necessarily feel like that you could just simply delete the file as Nalase was kind of trying to do here from the get-go. It feels like this whole thing would just need to be shot up or just bombed and exploded as we saw it actually happen. It's from here that Omega gets to Hemlock's vault in the vent and has eyes on the rest of the batch. She also asks Echo to give a big enough distraction so that she can free the others. Echo and his team burst in there, immediately met by the CX clones. It's a big one taken on, and there's a lot of loss that's taken by the rest of the clones that are helping Echo, who start decimating Echo's men is the CX clones. Omega slips into the main area where one CX clone is still guarding it. She is able to get one of Wrecker's arm guards off before the CX trooper grabs her. Hemlock arrives and releases gas into the chamber below where Echo and his men are. If you ask me, this felt like maybe the worst part of the episode, to be honest with you guys. It felt messy in my own thoughts and opinions. It just felt like, what's the point of sacrificing all of these normal clones for a couple of, well, just irregular clones, if you will, essentially, for the Bad Batch. I get that they're the main characters and all of that stuff kind of is there as well, but they literally lost just about all of these other clones that were helping Echo to save 3 other clones. It was like a 20-man loss, if I'm right or wrong. I'm not really sure, but still, it's something that just felt a bit unfair. And really, if for anything, more of them should have survived. Meanwhile, back with Rampart, he has copied all of the Project Necromancer into a datapad that is using as a bargaining chip to get out of there. Nalase says that her work will never belong to him, or to the Empire, ever again. As Hemlock shoots her, she drops a thermal detonator, killing Rampart, his hubris, and destroying all of the data about Omega and everything about the cloning facility. A bit of a fun fact that I like out there for those of you that aren't familiar, this is also why they're still working on Project Necromancer and the Mandalorian, because Nalase's knowledge is now destroyed and they kind of have to restart from scratch for the Empire, for Palpatine, everything that goes on in the sequel trilogy. It feels like there as well. I also feel like that's a bit of a plot armor point throughout the entirety of the Bad Batch, at least this last season, of how and why the Empire wants Omega for their testing because of her high M count and everything that she'll be able to contribute to this project. And so, thanks to his Stormtrooper helmet, Echo is safe from the gas, though it's him versus these 3 other CX clones. All of his men have now passed out, it seems. They overwhelm Echo, and he's also kind of captured. Scorch runs in, telling Hemlock that the main lab has now been destroyed, and that it's time for him to leave. Or that it would be the best bet, to say the least. It's just that it seems in the nick of time that Wrecker breaks out of his hold and starts a brawl in the room. Omega frees Hunter and Crosshair, but Hemlock slaps a pair of binders onto her, taking her with her her hand in one and his hand in the other, taking her with her as a prisoner. Along with that, Scorch, and he's dragging her out of the room. Wrecker tells Hunter to get the kid, and he tackles the CX trooper out of the upper room, crashing into the floor below where Echo is. As they battle the remaining CX clones, Hunter and Crosshair take off after Omega, despite being horrifically injured. The last of the CX clones are now down, but so is Wrecker. His injuries are now worse, and he's just not doing all that great at all. He seems to almost be just about out for the count. It's from here that Hemlock drags Omega to a launch area outside where a shuttle is waiting. The outside location pounds with rain and as lightning and thunder cracks into the sky. Hemlock calls his own private shuttle, which is immediately shot out of the air thanks to Crosshair. Despite not having his shooting hand, he seems to still have it. They take out Scorch, so it's just Hunter and Crosshair versus Hemlock in a tense, holding kind of hostage situation, holding Omega as a human shield. However, Omega knows Hemlock needs her alive, and that he can't hurt her. So, she pulls out the hidden tool that she's had before, having it this whole time. Hunter tells Crosshair to shoot the binders, but he's no longer having his shooting hand, so it's just too risky. Hunter tells him to simply trust Omega. Crosshair goes to line up his shot in a tense moment, and Omega stabs Hemlock into the leg. Crosshair shoots apart their binders as Hemlock raises his hands up into the air. Hunter then opens fire onto Hemlock, killing the villain once and for all. It is Star Wars though, so I'll say no one's ever really gone. But yeah, I think that Hemlock's out for the count and done now. Omega runs back to her brothers, hugging them both. Now it's time to get the others and to get out of there. They meet with Echo, Wrecker, and the other clone prisoners to flee Mount Tantus. Just in time too, because Tarkin has arrived at the same time, just about, with 3 Star Destroyers. They lower over Mount Tantus and begin their investigation. None of Hemlock's research is salvageable. Tarkin orders the destruction of the base and to shift all of the funding to Project Stardust, also known as the Death Star. It's now from here that we pop back over to the peaceful Pabu. The Force-sensitive children and clones are now safe as Emery and Echo watch over them. She says that none of their clones have ever had a normal childhood before. Their lives have always been nothing of their own. Echo smiles and adds, until now, meaning that they're free to do simply what they want and to live a happy, normal life. He's going to the planet of Pantoria to help get the clones settled into other places as well. He says that Senator Chuchi would love to know what Emery has to share about everything that's gone on here. Emery agrees to meet with Chuchi, leaving with Echo. Omega sits with Hunter, and she notes that her and the Force-sensitive kids are finally safe, with Hemlock now gone. Rex and Hunter are working hard to find the families of these other Force-sensitive kids. They wave goodbye to Echo and see him off. Wrecker and Crosshair, now having somewhat recovered from their different injuries, go to join them underneath a tree. Now the Batch and all the clones that they've helped are free to do whatever they want and choose their own paths, as Hunter says. Several years later, a figure walks out of the darkness and into the caves of Pabu. A ship is waiting. It's Omega, clearly now older now. Hunter and Batcher are waiting there for her in the darkness, along with the Gonk. Hunter now had gray in his hair and beard. Omega wants to join the rebellion as a pilot. She says that Wrecker and Crosshair, Hunter, they've all fought enough, and that it feels like it's her turn. It's her fight. They hug, and Omega tells him to look after the rest of the squad while she's gone, and of course Batcher too. Along with Gonk and Tech's goggles on the dash, she powers up her ship and leaves to start her next adventure with Hunter's well wishes behind her. Having Tech's goggles on the dash absolutely killed me. I totally bawled my eyes out, and I tear up a little bit just recording this video here. I mean, what a moment, what a show, what an incredible adventure here the Bad Batch has been for the last 3 years at this point, starting in 2021, having these troopers and these characters all introduced in the Clone Wars final season and giving them their own spinoff. I remember hearing about how they're giving these clone troopers their own spinoff, and I just thought it was such a bizarre, whack idea, and that it just wasn't going to be good, and it was just going to be kind of something that would be too far out there. But yet here we are. I loved every moment of it. Of course, the Bad Batch over the last couple of years, over its course of its 3 seasons, has had its ups and downs. It's had those quote-unquote filler episodes and less interesting episodes, and it's had episodes like this that are just flawless and just without any thing that's wrong with them. It feels like they're just absolutely perfect. It also comes to another point in mind of that I was a bit late on actually watching the season finale, a bit busy with life. I finally got to it, but since then I had kind of looked into some spoiler-free reviews and talked to a couple of friends, of course, and they all said that it did this season justice, but it didn't do the show justice as a conclusion, and I have to completely disagree with that. Now, mind you, there was only a couple of people that had said that, 2 people said that, okay? But yeah, the Bad Batch served as a perfect conclusion for this entirety of the show. I'm so glad that we got a longer episode as well to really wrap up and flesh out all of those different qualities and different characters, different story points throughout the entirety of this show here. I mean, really, as I had mentioned, what an incredible adventure. Of course, I'll have more breakdown videos here on the channel going into more detail, into more depth here of just about everything that we saw throughout this episode in a later separate feature video here on the channel. All the reason to grab that subscribe button if you haven't already, guys. Let me know all of your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. I would love to hear what you guys are all thinking. Thanks so much for watching today's video. Of course, this has been an official Star Wars. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great one. May the Force with you as always. Peace out.